This is the flood resilient garden, and it's designed on the basis of SUDs, sustainable drainage techniques, and really good horticulture. So everybody, even with climate change, still wants their lovely garden. A lot of people are finding that areas that were occasionally boggy are now an awful lot more boggy. But what you can do is you can create a raised area, and because water always runs downwards, the things that like dry roots or drier roots, better drainage, will actually get that from that technique.
So we've got all types of planting. We've got very dry plants up on the roof. This bank here actually demonstrates quite well. So it goes from dry Iris germanicas, the Echium vulgare, the poppies, bulbines, sea thrift, all the way through to kind of wetter pond-side marginal planting like the Iris sibirica. We're showcasing that even in a relatively small space, or even in your garden at home, by changing the topography, changing the levels, you can have all sorts of different plants that provide for many different forms of wildlife, lots of different types of insects, and hopefully it's beautiful too.
So what inspired this garden was that hot summer we had a couple of years ago, and I found myself collecting water from washing up buckets and shower water to water my pots in the garden, because the containers they dry out quite quickly. So we're capturing rainwater in the copper guttering, which then trickles down the rain chains and is stored in the water butts. From here it's piped almost invisibly into the planters, where there's an interconnecting network of pipes and reservoirs which hold and store the water and allow the plants to take it up from underneath. This saves about 30% of water than you would normally use if you're watering from above.
So this pavilion and the canopy will capture the rain water and then channel through the funnel and store the water in the below ground tank.
And then the other ways we're storing water, we've got all these swales and channels in this pondy area at the bottom. So rain that lands on the garden permeates through the hardscape, trickles down the banks, and is captured and stored in all these swales, channels and depressions all the way through the garden.
So 1 in 8 gardens in the UK has flooded within the last year. We have our downpipes disconnected so that water doesn't just surcharge down into our drains and overwhelm and flood the surrounding area. It's disconnected, it runs along our gutter, down these lovely rain chains and into our water storage tanks. We've sequenced them together to cascade beautifully, and actually when there is a heavy rainfall event, they can store water, they can store 10 bathtubs full of water, but then when they fill up, they can cascade into our beautiful swale and actually fill up our pond area and our bog zone. So within this area we can hold 100 bathtubs of water, so that's enough to manage runoff from 10 gardens around us. The planting's been designed with plants that like getting their feet wet at lower level, but we've really stretched the garden vertically, so we've got edibles up and away from contaminated floodwater, really showing that actually a flood resilient garden doesn't have to be a compromise, it can still be a really beautiful, functional, peaceful and purposeful space.